Have you ever heard that term, disability management, and kind of thought it just sounds like some complicated HR jargon? Well, today we're going to crack that open. We're going to turn that phrase into a real, practical blueprint that any organization can use to support its people and, boost its performance. So let's dive in. To really get why this is so critical, let's start with a really basic question. What's the actual cost when an employee gets hurt or sick? And as you're about to see, it's about so much more than just the medical bills. You see, when disability management is handled poorly, it's just a lose-lose situation. The company's bleeding productivity and money. But, and this is more important, the employee is dealing with lost income, a ton of stress, and that awful feeling of being isolated. Good disability management, though, completely turns that around, creating a win for literally everyone involved. So here's our game plan for this explainer. We'll start by defining what we're actually talking about. Then we'll look at the essential building blocks for any program. After that, we'll walk through a 7-step design, see how data is the engine for the whole thing, and finally, wrap it all up with why this is so good for everyone.
All right, first things first, let's get a really clear definition on the table. What is disability management anyway?
Okay, at its heart, it's a structured approach. That's the key word. It's not random, it's not just reacting to problems. The whole goal is to proactively help employees with health issues either stay productive at work or, if they do need time away, to get them back as quickly and, this is crucial, as safely as possible. It's really about support, not just shuffling papers.
And listen, this is not a one-person job. It absolutely takes a village. It's a whole coordinated team of experts. You've got occupational therapists, nurses, insurance specialists handling the claims, and even managers on the front lines who've had some basic training.
Okay, so if you want to build a program that actually works, you need a super strong foundation. Let's look at the 4 pillars you just can't do without.
These are the 4 absolute essentials. First, you need data analysis. You have to use facts to figure out what's really going on. Second, a clear program design. That's your step-by-step playbook. Third, and you cannot skip this one, you need active vocal support from your senior leaders. And finally, you have to measure your results to see what's working and what's not. If you're missing any one of these, the whole thing is going to struggle. Now for the fun part. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of how you actually build this. We're going to walk through the 7-step process for designing a program that really makes a difference. This here shows you the whole journey. It all starts with prevention, the best case scenario, right? Stopping problems before they even start. But if something does happen, you move into claim initiation and management, making sure that process is smooth. Then you get to case management, which is all about personalized, coordinated care, so important for complex health situations. This leads to transitional work, a key step, and the end goals are always a full return to regular work and any rehabilitation needed to get there. Let's zoom in on 2 of the most important stages, prevention and that transitional work piece. The whole philosophy here is actually pretty simple. The best way to manage a disability is to keep it from happening in the first place. Being proactive is always going to beat being reactive. And prevention can be surprisingly straightforward. So, check this out. A tech company noticed a pattern of employees complaining about neck and back pain. They didn't just wait for it to become a crisis. They looked into it and brought in simple ergonomic fixes. Better chairs, standing desks, some training. And the result? Complaints dropped big time. That's prevention in action. All right, let's jump forward in the journey to another critical step. Transitional work. This isn't about throwing someone back into the deep end. Think of it more like a smart, safe bridge that lets an employee come back gradually, maybe with different duties or fewer hours, making sure they don't get hurt all over again. Let's make this totally real with Maria's story. So Maria is a nurse, and she injured her shoulder. Now, instead of just staying home until she was 100%, she came back on a transitional plan. For the first couple of weeks, she just did admin tasks. Then she moved on to light patient care for a few weeks, and only then did she slowly ease back into her normal duties. That phased approach protected her health and, just as importantly, kept her connected to her job. So you might be wondering, how did that tech company know to buy new chairs? Or how did Maria's boss create that perfect return-to-work plan for her? Well, the answer, the secret sauce, is all about using data strategically. It always starts with a baseline evaluation. You have to know where your starting line is, and that means looking at 2 kinds of data. Quantitative, that's the hard numbers, like sick day records and compensation claims, and qualitative, which is all about the human experience you get from things like surveys and interviews. For example, A hospital dug into its injury reports and boom, the biggest problems jumped right out. A whopping 45% of injuries were lower back issues. Then you had slips and falls. Right away, that data gave them a crystal clear target. And because they had that data, they knew exactly what to do. They brought in safe patient lifting training for the back problems, installed anti-slip flooring, and launched new needle safety programs. And the outcome? Get this, a 40% drop in injuries in just 1 year. That right there is the power of a data-driven approach.
And organizations keep using data to make sure they're on the right track. They look at key metrics like the average claim duration. Are people getting back to work faster? They measure how efficient that return-to-work process is, and they track the cost per employee. This makes sure the program stays effective and keeps delivering real value.
So, as we've seen, this is about so much more than just pushing papers for claims. Let's just quickly sum up why a good program is a genuine win-win for absolutely everyone. The benefits really do land on both sides of the coin. For employees, it means a faster recovery, real emotional support, job security, and way less financial stress. And for the organization, the advantages are just as clear. Less absenteeism, lower healthcare costs, better productivity, and, you guessed it, much stronger employee loyalty. I mean, just think about the impact. A construction company put a formal program in place and saw a 30% drop in sick leave inside of a single year. That is a massive, tangible return on their investment in their people's well-being. And that brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. As you think about everything we just covered, ask yourself this. Is your workplace actually built for prevention, to actively keep people safe and healthy? Or is it really just set up to react after something bad has already happened? Because at the end of the day, when you look past all the data, the steps, and the metrics, a successful program is built on one thing: a truly supportive workplace culture. It's about creating an environment where people feel cared for, where they feel valued, especially when they need it most.